Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, y'all, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. It's me, your girl Constance Carter. I am your host for today. And today we are talking about a topic that has been long, far too long, that has been with us since the inception of this country. Colorism. Colorism. I got a little list today. Colorism. So whether it's out in the open or a topic that's more subtle, colorism continues to affect Black women and men too. Because I do want to discuss that in 2024. I know we don't have any men on the panel, but I do want to talk about, how we see masculinity as well. It influences how we're portrayed in the media, how we're treated at work, and even how we experience our own personal lives. It's not just about how we see others, but also about how it shapes us personally. To truly understand colorism, we have to recognize its deep roots in both racism and sexism. It's a conversation we can't afford to shy away from, y'all. So today we are going to discuss the ongoing harm that is caused by colorism and how you can push back, because we want to be resolution oriented. Okay. So today, we have some of the most beautiful queens on the planet. Now, I know you don't see a whole variety today, but you will see it in a minute. So don't get mad at us. I don't want to see nothing in the comments when you say, look, y'all talk about colorism and we don't see the chocolate melanated sisters represented, because they're coming. So we have Miss Lala. She is an international real estate agent. We have Queen Athena, the We Wealth Women Warrior CPA. And then we have Dr. Alicia. Look at she over there. She ready. She's shreddy. So this is Dr. Alicia's her area, her specialty. But we really wanted to have this conversation because it's something that's important that we talk about in our communities. And I was actually just sharing this with my Net 7 cohort ladies last night. They're all professional women from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all shades. And it's very interesting to get their perspective. And so I can't wait until Moya is going to come on here too. And she's going to represent the darker chocolate hue, but she's just having some issues today. And then also Dr. Lene was supposed to be on here, but she's having some car issues. There goes Moya. Hey.
Hey,
so, I'm so glad you're here, girl, because you saved us, because they was about to get the hatchets, and they was about to boycott us. So I'm glad that you're here. First, let's start with this video that we really kind of want to build a foundation on, and then we're going to have a conversation, okay?
Yeah, when I was on that dating app, a lot of Black men would date me because I look like the attractive dark skin. As a dark skinned woman, you only get desired or viewed as attractive if you're like, you have a small nose and big lips and like the Ryan Destiny. It's a whole different game in Africa. But in America, like, they don't view like women who look like Leslie Jones, for example, as attractive. Like, we just seen a reporter who basically bashed her for her looks and called her masculine because she has a wide nose. But like, they literally called her masculine, and it's like, she's not actually masculine. She just has Afrocentric features that doesn't fit the European beauty standard. So a lot of Black men, they'll desire me because I'm an experiment to them.
I'm so glad G-Ball Development said good afternoon, but you guys should have a chocolate sister on the panel. And she's here, but she keep having these intermittent internet issues. There, she's back. So it's not
the
just
devil
the light.
trying to not make us be great today. The devil
trying to I keep freezing. Even the internet is racist. They not giving
the internet is
service to darker skinned Black women.
And of course, Dr. Lene was gonna be on here with us, but she's having some issues. So but we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna take a deep dive into this. And so let me ask you, Alicia, Dr. Alicia, what do you think about that video of the idea that dark skin equals masculinity? Now, let me just tell you, I wouldn't say Leslie Jones is not attractive, but she is a little masculine. Like, she's not the most feminine woman out there. So are they correct in when they say that dark-skinned women are attributed to more of a masculine look?
Well, what do you mean? Like, I think like just that statement that you made, we need to like really stop and think about why we're coming up with these conclusions about someone. Who says that someone like her, because she has more African features, looks more.
No, I'm not saying because she's African features. I'm saying because of her presence, how she carries herself. She is a little bit more masculine.
I mean,
Leslie Jones.
I don't know. I think that part of it is that we just have to question ourselves. Like,
Okay.
When we draw conclusions, is there some implicit bias beneath a lot of that? And so that's the biggest thing for us talking about this today, is to raise awareness, because that's part of the solution here. If I'm jumping right into the solution quickly. But I also think that, she makes a really good point. Like, even Black women who are on the dating scene, those with features that adhere to Eurocentric standards, even Black women with European centric features are considered more desirable. And that's something that we need to get away from. And in individuals who are in this sort of dating scene need to start to become more conscious of who and what they are programmed to think is beautiful and more desirable. Like last night, we just had the VMAs last night, and I'm always looking to see what are the skin tones of the Black individuals that are seen as more desirable, even in terms of getting awards. I remember years ago, there was this whole thing with India Arie and Alicia Keys. They both came out at the same time. And I just remember, like, Alicia Keys won so many of those awards above and beyond India Arie, and she's just as talented. So I always figured it was this dark skin, light skin sort of unconscious thing that was happening even in our awards. And if you go to India Arie's page, somebody should go to her Instagram page. She doesn't seem very happy with the industry right now. She's starting to become very vocal with some of the experiences that she has. And I don't see a lot of people, running to support her. I would love to see artists see another artist struggling in the industry and support them. So yeah, this is a thing. It is something that needs to be acknowledged and validated.
Well, I agree. And colorism certainly is a huge factor, especially when we're talking about media, but it's also in health. It's also in politics. It's also in education. It's in so many different facets in our society. I do want to ask you though, Moya, since you are the chocolate representative here, what do you think of that video? And do you think the idea of, like I mentioned to her, Leslie Jones being, she, in my opinion, I don't think that she looks like a man, but I think she has masculine energy. Do you think that, and that is a pretty feminine picture of her, but I think like she's like a little rough around the edges. Are they saying it to her because she's masculine, or is it because she's dark skinned? It has masculine energy per se.
I actually agree with you on this one, Constance. Like, I think she has more masculine energy. Like the picture that we just put up, you're right. That is one of her most feminine pictures. And I think that's what she gives off. I think that's a part of who Leslie Jones is. But I think when we start going in and we talk about Kelly Rowland or Lupita, like those are super feminine women who are dark skinned. But I also believe, I don't know a lot about the backstory of Lupita, but Kelly, I feel like she grew into her chocolateness. She grew into it. And then once she started embracing it, then I think everyone around her started embracing it just because she embraced her more, like herself more.
Mm. That's a good point. What are your thoughts, Miss Athena, around the idea of just Black women, especially when they're out dating, like the young lady said on the video, how men like she's like not normally what they'll go for because of her dark skin. What do you think about that? Have you experienced anything like that? I mean, you're right there in the middle.
I think that she has a point, and I think that when it comes to colorism, it's expressed differently. I think with women, we look at it more so, or it's expressed through the children that we have, right? So a woman will show favoritism to the light-skinned child, or make sure they date a man who is lighter to have, I'm thinking about Keke Palmer and Darius, to make sure that the children come out a certain way. With men, they express it through who they desire to have sex with and who they choose to marry and date. And I definitely think there's a dark skin complex. That's what I call it. And I live in South Florida. Every time I see an interracial couple, 9 out of 10 times it's a dark skinned Black man. Dark. It's not medium. It's not light. Dark skin. And the brothers who actually do date the dark skinned sisters tend to be medium to light. So it's just very like interesting to me. I just keep thinking about like what Cat Williams said, like, all these men have light skinned wives with like weird faces. Like, I think that is a thing. I do think men like to exert power and reach for status. So if a lighter skinned woman is representative of status, they will tend to go for that.
Well,
I
okay, so
got something to say on that. I got something to say on that.
Go ahead.
I see that. I acknowledge that. I agree with Athena on that. But that also goes for a lot of us lighter women who have faced the backlash of our own community. Sometimes we don't want our children to go through the same things that we have gone through. And so we look for the darker men. We look for the chocolate men because we admire that. We love that. That's beauty to us too. And it helps us to feel like we're embracing our blackness. And again, with Moya, you have to grow into what you are. Baby girls, queens, I didn't grow into mine until I was in my 40s. Okay.
Really?
So I just so happened to fall in love with a light man. So you got two light people and one with green eyes. Okay. So that's just what it was. But in my whole life, I always thought darker men were a choice for me because, you know, I felt like I was always being singled out, always being told that I wasn't black enough by the black community. And then in the white community that, oh, what's it like? You know, they always wanted the other side of me. So you're constantly being pulled into that fact. So I can see that, yes, there are darker men that go for lighter women, but there are also just as many lighter women that are looking at darker men because they want a part of that may be missing in their life. And that's beautiful to them.
Let me ask you this.
I disagree with that.
Wait. Hold on really quick. Because let me ask, Bam Bam said you aren't light, you're just biracial, and I'm not trying to be rude. The thing about, and there's a video that talks about it, because there was a sister on there that said, yeah, my mom may be white, but I'm still a black woman because I am the same skin tone as a lot of black women. Like there are you have two black parents, I got two black parents, we come in all different skin tones. So I don't think the fact that you are a light-skinned woman, well, I don't know because I'm not biracial, but do you feel like you do have light skin privilege? Lala, have you had light skin privilege?
I freaking do. And I don't like it. I mean, I have been in rooms with women darker than I am, and I get the attention. But then again, sometimes I can honestly say that I have another point. I've lost over 130 pounds. Sometimes people wouldn't talk to me just because I was fat. Okay. It's the same in business. It had nothing to do with color. So you have so many different dynamics. But as I got thinner and in the room with other people, I would notice that. But I'm conscious of it. I'm very conscious of it and very aware of that. But yes, there is favoritism going on. But as for being biracial, let me tell y'all something. I know y'all mean no harm, but it's not like I said, dear God, before you send me down to heaven, please make me mixed. It was not my choice. It was my lot in life to carry.
Yeah. But your experiences as a black woman, correct? You were
right.
raised around. Yeah. I mean,
all black. And if you ask me what I am, I will tell you I am a black woman because that's what I am.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is Fly Nubian Money, where we show you how to maximize your money, your shmoney. If you ever want to get alerts every time we come live here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Text the word Queens to 87948. Text QUEENS to 87948 to get notifications for every time we come live. And guess what? We on Spotify, y'all. We have a podcast. We have a whole podcast. So anytime, if you can't look at our beautiful faces, you could actually listen to us every day. So go to Spotify or everywhere where we have podcasts and search for Fly Nubian Money. Today, we're talking about colorism. And I know it might seem a little bit unbalanced because if you look here at the top, you kind of see. And let me tell you guys something. Up until recently, let me tell you, when I was younger, I was darker. So when I was, growing up, I was probably more, a little bit more caramel. And I guess, I've gotten a little bit lighter over the years. My mom is really, really light, but I wasn't as light growing up. And so I've never really felt that, I never really experienced the idea of colorism that I know of, Dr. Alicia. And I know you say there is an unconscious bias that some lighter skinned people have that we don't even realize, or a privilege that we have for being light skinned. So what is your thought around that unconscious bias that some lighter skinned women experience?
Well, I mean, they experience it for sure. And there's been some studies on it. I mean, even there's this study on high school suspensions, that lighter skinned Black people are less often suspended. There's a study in Villanova about it. And they said darker skinned individuals are more likely to get suspended and have more days of suspension than even lighter skinned individuals. So we don't even realize that we're doing it. And it happens so early in our development, because even 3-year-olds, if you look at the paper doll, not the paper bag, but the doll test, the doll, they'll give like a darker skinned doll and a lighter skinned doll, and they'll have 3-year-olds say which one is stupid, and they'll point to the darker skin. Which one is pretty, and they'll point to the lighter skinned one. So it's something that's deep seated in us. And we have to recognize that we're doing this consciously, because we're subconsciously being programmed to believe that if you're Black, step back. If you're brown, stick around. And if you're white, you're all of that. And it's ingrained all over the world. It's not just something in the Black community, Latino community, Caribbean community. It's all
Indian.
over.
Yeah.
Indian and Asian community. I mean, all of those skin whitening products and in India and all of that. Like, this whole world has been believed, given these messages that being Black is not okay. And we have to stop this, because you deserve love no matter what color you are. So
yeah. And I can tell you, in my TED Talk, I talk about it. That's one of the first things I mentioned in my TED Talk, is about when I was 3 years old or 4 years old, my mom bought me a baby alive doll. And I had asked her for months and months and months. Finally, when I got the baby alive doll, it was a Black baby. And I was like, this thing is ugly. It's not what I want. It's not what I asked for. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And my mom was like, what? This is what you asked for? And I was like, this ain't what I asked for. This ain't it. And what I didn't know at the time was that I didn't like it because this doll was Black, and all I seen on the commercial was the white doll. I wanted the white doll, and I thought it was ugly, and I thought, I didn't want it. But that was somehow programmed in my 4-year-old mind. I had no idea where it came from. And it was probably because of the commercials. It was probably because of the subliminal messaging that I received in watching TV as a child, that I didn't see these dolls that looked like me. I didn't see anything that was celebrated that looked like me. And that is what's ingrained in our children from very, very young. But there's another video that I want to go to with these sisters talking about this very thing.
My family comes from an ethnicity called Garifuna, and we're a mixture of West African and Arawakan people. In our home country of Guatemala, there's a lot of indigenous folks and Garifuna folks together. And usually they get together and they have muladu, like basically biracial children. And that was always seen as beautiful. Having that overall really shaped the way I viewed myself, and feeling that I was never really beautiful in my skin. So I had to literally seek that out on myself, to love my melanin.
My two best friends are much lighter than me, right? So I have been standing next to my friends and people have literally not said hello to me because they are not seeing me. People literally ignore dark-skinned women, particularly fat dark-skinned women, particularly fat dark-skinned women that don't have no hair. Me, you know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you, Moya, since you are the chocolate of the, Athena's somewhere in the middle, then you have the light brights up at the top. That's kind of crazy, right? But it's something that is definitely, I'm glad we have a good representation. Moya, what do you think about the idea of, not only is she Black, not only is she a woman, not only is she overweight, but then she has the kinky hair as well. Like all of those factors that she says, it even makes her even more invisible, or people view her as less valuable or less worthy. What are your thoughts around that?
So for me, I grew up in Minnesota, and at one point, Minnesota had the highest number of interracial dating. So if you weren't white, you were not in, you were not it. You were not the girl that wanted to get chosen. So one of the things that really helped me though, was my mom, when I was young, whatever it was, if it was like a notebook or if it was a magazine or anything, she would color it in brown. And I used to always be like, well, why are you coloring this in brown? She's like, because you're brown. And my mom is actually lighter than me. And she would still always do it because she always wanted to reinforce, like, you're good being brown, like you're wonderful being brown. And so if I didn't have that, oh my God, I can only imagine like my mental state, just because as women, we also have to worry about our confidence and how we show up in the world. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is a huge issue because, you know, I'll stop there, but I just feel like there needs to be another step.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Athena. You're from the Caribbean. There is a huge amount of millions and millions and millions of dollars that is in the skin lightening industry.
I know where you're going. Bleaching.
Very, very common. What are your thoughts around the idea of all of these women that are bleaching their skins, trying to get closer to white?
You know what? This is a serious topic that happens in the Caribbean and I'm sure across the diaspora, but especially in the Caribbean, it's very, very heavy, especially also in Jamaica. I'm Jamaican. I'm not even going to lie to you on this platform. I have family members currently who skin bleach, right? Or even skin bleach their children, right? They get the cake soap and yes, it's very, very, they take the cake soap and we have songs about it as well because there is the definitely pervasive ideology that light is brighter. And especially in the Caribbean where you don't have, everyone is Black. So what happens in society to try to differentiate yourself? All we have is class, so money, and then also colorism. That's heavily pervasive within the Caribbean community. Now, I don't know what the solution for that is, to be honest with you. Women do face and have a lot of medical issues to the point where your skin is peeling off and you can't even walk around barefoot anymore because your skin barrier is broken because you've bleached it away. And you never really look better. You always look like a sick, ashy person or a ghost to me, right? But I can never... even right now, who have bleach, and I've never had that conversation with them because it's very uncomfortable for me. But also, I understand because they are darker skinned in comparison to me. So I think the need as women to be desirable and the fact that our men play into this as well by choosing women often who are lighter further creates more of an insecurity and a need for us to do that.
Look at Serena Williams. Now, some people say, "Oh no, that is clearly skin bleaching." I personally did a fact check on this picture of Serena Williams. At first, I didn't think it was true. A beautiful, strong Black woman raised by a Black man and a Black mama, literally bleaching her skin to fit in the image of white supremacy because she is married to a white man and has a little half white baby. Wait a minute. She did marry a white guy. This is a true picture of self-hate. By the way, you can't find this picture of her on Instagram page. I'll share it with you. So look at here. You got Serena Williams. Everybody knows her. And how do you think you're going to get away with it? You brown skin, chocolate one day, and then the next day you're light skin, and everybody is just supposed to not say anything? That's crazy. But then it also goes back to, let's talk about how the family influence on that. Because I could tell you in my family, my mom is light, right? So one of the things she used to say is that when her and her nephew, they were the same age, and her nephew was, light, also green eyes or blue eyes or something like that. And so they're from the South, they're from Arkansas. They had to pick cotton. And so what the white guy who used to come and pick up all the kids, my mom was one of the lightest, the light-skinned kids, they would sit them on the truck and they would eat peaches while all the little dark-skinned kids were working in the fields and picking cotton. So my mom would talk about different things like that, where she knew that she had that light-skin privilege. They would just be eating peaches. Now, when they went home, she got her ass beat by her brothers because she was up there on that damn truck eating them peaches while they was out there slaving. But that's also been something that has been ingrained in my family. So I'll look at my aunt, one of my aunts. She's no longer with us, but she had two children. One was light, one was dark. And then she treated the dark one like crap. And then she had two kids. One was light and one was dark. And she treated that one. There were two boys. She used to beat the shit out of my cousin. And he was dark. And she used to baby the light one. And then when he had a family, he ended up marrying a blonde hair, blue eyed. He didn't want anything to do with having anything that looked like anything closely to what he had experienced. But that was that colorism that had been ingrained, that self-hatred that a lot of us have in our families that derived from slavery. But it's also something that's talked about because we talk about in families, because I know most Black people that I know, You have people who will say something about, oh, look at her little black, even if it's not anything negative, but they point out the difference. We hear that, right? Oh, she's so, look at her little pretty black self. Look at her little cute chocolate self. Well, you don't say that about, I don't think they say, look at the little pretty high yellow. I don't know. But I see it in the Black families, how it's been taught from the elders down to us. And if we don't stop it, then it goes to our kids. What are your thoughts around that, Dr. Alicia?
Okay, listen, we need to shift our focus of this conversation. Like, the issue is not Serena Williams. The issue is colorism. The issue is not your aunt. The issue is racism and colorism. So we need to shift the focus off of these individuals who are just doing the best that they can with this ingrained sense of self-hatred because of colorism, right? We have to really shift, and racism. Like, we have to shift our focus away from chastising individuals because, yeah, they feel probably bad about it, and rightfully so, because of the messages that they got, that being dark is not right. And it's the messages that are the problem. And Athena is talking about, I don't know the solution. The solution is the media. Like, we really need to, in Jamaica, I don't know if there's any way to promote having darker skinned women as an object of desire. We need to do this in our music videos, in our television programs, in billboard ads. I mean, you see it all around us, where the most desirable people are always the people who are lighter. And that's the problem. We have to attack the problem like where it is, and not attack the individual people who are just trying to do the best that they can because they want to be loved and respected and admired, and they have needs just like everybody else. And because they're dark skinned, let's face it, sometimes they get overlooked. Those women expressing their voice in that way, we can't look at any one of them and say that they are the issue, or even that Black men are the issue because they pick a certain or favor a certain skin tone over another. It's the racism, it's the colorism. That's the problem. And we have to combat it by making sure that all of us collectively and individually start being courageous enough to call some of this stuff out when we see it. Say something about it. It's courageous to give your privilege away and say, wait a minute, I don't like what I'm seeing here. Making comments and just saying, let's promote a more positive image of Black people. Go buy India.Arie's album. Make us think about it. I don't know, but we can collectively start to show people in all different shades. You're born with these shades. You can always lose weight, Lala, but you can't really change your skin color as much as you would hope to do. And so that's where the problem lies.
I understand what you're saying, Doc, but it still does. A lot of it does start at home. A lot of it starts in our families.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't really have control over the media, but we do have control over the people that we have influence over. And so I do believe that, especially when like, my family comes from the South. And so that type of racism, and you got to think about it. Like, my great grandfather, he was born right after slavery. So there is just that what do you see? What do you say, Lala? America is sick with racism. You have that sickness that has just been ingrained through the fabric of our community and this fabric of our country. But a lot of it is taught at home. Have you had experiences, Lala, inside your family where that's been kind of spoken about inside your family?
Yeah. I have two older sisters, and they are absolutely gorgeous. They're darker than I am. And they also have a lot of Native American features because their mother is Cherokee, really Cherokee. And so they have different tones. So within our own family, some of our own cousins would kind of single us out and say that we weren't a part of the family because of the way we look. Look, all three of them, they don't even belong, So, and it is because someone had said that to them in their own family. So even within our family, their children and our cousins were taught, well, she's a little special because she's this. So it does start in the home. Now, as for me, my mother used to send me outside with some cocoa butter, talking about, go get some color, baby. And this is at 3 years old. Okay, so instead of embracing that this is what I was taught that, hey, you're lighter. You need to go out there and get a little darker, get a little more color to you. So it is something that we have to start with at home. My son is light, and I chose to change it. when we talked about that, we talked about why there are so many shades in our community. I taught him of the slave master's game plan to separate us all. I taught him how some people in our own community single us out because they haven't thought about how we were being separated in that manner. So it does start at home. And yes, I have experienced it on both sides. And it's not fun, especially when it's not something that, you can change. So that's the problem. I think our mentality is all twisted, and we need to address where it came from and teach it properly in our homes. Don't depend on other people to teach this because they're not going to.
Amen. What do you think, Moya?
So really quick, I do want to say, I think it's important to highlight, if we look at Serena as an example, I remember as a kid looking at Comic View and them doing full-on jokes about her and her sister. I mean, and I remember being dark-skinned, looking at this whoa, can they do that? Can they say that? It was so horrific and mean. And so I can only imagine what it would take to not only be at the top of your game in sports, but also have to deal and contend with what is happening in the media and what they're saying about you. So for her, and if we use it as an example, I think it has to do with, and if we look at the influx of what's happening in Jamaica and Nigeria with increase of skin bleaching, it's largely because of what they see. Instagram is a form of media. It's social media. So I think it's us also having a deeper dialogue, because if we look at it, dark-skinned women haven't had what I like to call a Michael Jordan moment. Michael Jordan came out and all of a sudden dark-skinned men were in. It was they were that one that everybody wanted. And it wasn't he was you had to single them out. I want a man like Michael Jordan. Nowadays, we have one or two, oh, I want a woman like Kelly Rowland. You have to specifically say her in order for her to just be the standard and be it. And so I think dark women need a Michael Jordan moment where it's just the standard. It's just what is.
I like that. I definitely like that perspective. But you think about Serena when she was grown and she was at her peak. Everybody used to love Serena's body. She was a sought after woman as a dark skinned woman. So for her to go back and then to bleach her skin, I don't know. I do understand
women are sought after because of how they perceive them to be sexually. That's a thing that we have to really look at. The sexualization of dark skinned women. How do you get a man? Oh, I have to be way more sexual. I have to be more promiscuous. I have to do more than the other women. And I think that further affects our self-esteem and how we.
And also with Serena, her muscular body, they were also saying that she was masculine for that too.
Yeah, they did. I want to go to you, Athena, and then we're gonna go to a video. But what are your thoughts around just the conversation that we were talking about?
Well, I also think that we also have to take accountability that we perpetuate these things as well. And one of the examples that came to my mind when we were talking was, I remember my brother came over and he said his friends invited him to a yacht to go on the boat. So I was like, okay, on the boat. His girlfriend, who is darker skinned, so my brother is a shade lighter than me. His girlfriend is a very dark skinned, nice, lovely Haitian woman. Told him that he shouldn't go because he's going to get darker in the sun. So, which made me uncomfortable when he told me that. And I said, I think you should still go. And I said, it doesn't matter. I've gotten darker, living in South Florida. Sometimes my foundation don't match because I decided to go on a vacation and come back and a girl didn't feel like getting her darker skin.
You got to go
get the dark skin foundation, the summer foundation, right?
We got to get the summer foundation.
Right. So I think we need to also, yes, racism and colorism is an issue. Yes, media is an issue. Yes, outside people of different races is an issue, but we are also the issue.
Understood. So for those of you who are just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you to maximize your money. Listen, we are talking about colorism, why preferring light skin, even without disrespecting dark skin, is still a problem. You see here, Sammy Sosa looking crazy as shit. You got Little Kim looking like Michael Jackson and LaToya Jackson. It is a whole epidemic out here, y'all. And the idea that we all are at odds, that we are fighting each other based upon the melanin or the lack of in our skin. But we're here every day, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to get notifications right before we go live, text the words Queens to 87948. That's QUEENS to 87948. Now, I want to go to a video so that we could just dive a little bit deeper on the topic on this conversation.
There's this picture of a couple of rappers. It was like Jay-Z, Diddy, Swiss Beats, somebody else at a table, and they were like talking about like what excellence looks like, and all of their women. You had Beyonce, Alicia Keys, Cassie, all very light skinned. So clearly there's an association with like being high class and looking a certain way. And I know for me, like I was always very urged to like this idea of like a messy bun, like throwing your hair in a messy bun. And I used to have hair like more than this. So like putting my hair in a messy bun and putting on sweats and going outside, I couldn't do that, because if I do that as a darker skinned woman with my hair nappy and like, then somebody might think I was homeless, or somebody would think like, oh, that she didn't shower today or whatever. The lighter you are and the more polished you look is definitely associated with more money.
My family.
Wow. So Dr. Alicia, let's unpack that. This lady said, if I am dark and I just go out just being normal, they may think I'm homeless. They may think something is wrong with me. They may think I'm poor because I'm dark. I'm maybe not be polished. And so the idea off top, and it reminds me of, what was at Harvard, that when they called the police on that girl who was in the lobby doing her homework or something like that. She was a dark-skinned girl, and they called the police on her because they thought she was some homeless person, and she was actually a student there. And so this happens, to a lot of our people because they don't fit the profile of upper class. So does light mean upper class, and does dark mean lower class? Is that the messaging that's out there, Dr. Alicia?
I think it's absolutely the messaging that's out there. And if you're a lighter skinned person, you are privileged, like to be able to put your hair in a messy bun and go out and nobody's looking at you in a negative way. I mean, she's really demonstrating the differences. And I just want to say, I don't think the problem started in the home. I think the problem started with slavery, okay? With division of labor based on skin tone. Somebody went to the house and was a house slave, and based on skin tone, you're out into the field. So that's where it started. And that's where we need to draw our attention to, as this is how it began. Our entire history in America tells us and the rest of the world that being dark is not great. Being dark is attributed these negative images. And applause to artists like Issa Rae and individuals like that who are dark skinned, who are just seen as an object of desire. I love some of the things that she's doing to kind of combat this. I think hats off to Athena and other people like that. It takes courage to be able to speak up and say, wait a minute, don't say that to my brother. I mean, if you're dark skinned or light skinned, again, you are deserving of love. And when somebody attacks you based on your skin color, just remember they're playing a program. They're acting out a program. And to just see it for what it is, not to say be a victim of it, but just understand this is a program that has been ingrained in us since our entire history in this country. So that's what I want to draw our attention to today.
All right, cool. So let me ask you a question. If that's the case, Lala, how can we change the way that we're thinking about it? And then before you answer that question, I want to know, actually, to ask the audience, have you guys ever experienced colorism in your family? And, just give us an example of maybe some things that you've experienced in your family or in your life, or, maybe in the workplace. Maybe you weren't given a job because of your skin tone, or maybe people don't take you serious, or perhaps, people thought you were dumb because you were light skinned, or maybe you were even pretty. There's so many variables, I think, to this, and so many layers to this conversation, I think, that we can go down. But Lala, the question was like, what can we do? Okay, we know that slavery has put this out there, but what are some things that we can do to kind of change the narrative of how we approach things, especially as light-skinned women? Let's say that, especially as a light-skinned woman.
Well, not only, first, I'd agree with Dr. Alicia wholeheartedly. You do teach where the root come from, because you cannot you can't put a band-aid on something unless the root is exposed. That wound must fester. It must come out. It must heal. That band-aid must be ripped off. And we must talk about the things that are very uncomfortable, just like I did with my son. Talk to him about that. And if you're going to sing Jesus loves little children to your kids, then make them believe it by not talking opposite of what you're teaching them to do. So it's very easy to teach your children, you need to love yourself, you need to embrace yourself. I'm often reminded of that little girl where that lady was brushing her hair and she kept saying, "You so pretty." And that little girl broke down in tears because she thought she was ugly. Okay, you got to walk the walk, talk the talk. If you're going to teach children to accept themselves, teach them the history with it, then you need to walk the walk and talk the talk and show them how beautiful they are. Make them see how beautiful they are. It doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. Yes, I know there's peer pressure, but the more you instill in our children the confidence, the more they can stand on their own solid foundations. You got to start at home. Do not tell them one thing and do and say another. Be honest about what you're doing within yourself and what you say about others, because children listen. So you must start at home.
Yeah. Well, I want to just kind of talk about, from a male perspective, and I know that we don't have men on here, and I know, and I mentioned, at the top that men face it too. So a couple of different ways, right? So I'll look at like dating shows. I was watching Pop the Balloon the other day, and the girls will be quick to tell a light skin guy, "I don't date light skin. I don't like you too light." But I've never heard anybody say that to a dark skin, because they would be killed almost for telling a dark skinned man, "I'm not going to talk to you because you're dark skinned." So then you have the, okay, Moya, our chocolate representative is not on here right now, but in the dating space, and I'll ask you this, Athena, for men, the lighter skinned men, people think that they're softer. There was a guy that I used to deal with. He's light skinned, green eyes, and he said growing up in this area, all the dark skins used to pick on him. He was bullied relentlessly because he's light skinned, wavy hair and all that stuff. And then I remember one time we were at the governor's inauguration last year, and somebody was messing with him. Some guy was messing with him. And I remember he said to me, "They're just doing that because I'm light skinned." And they probably weren't. But I think that's been like permeated in his mind from childhood because of the bullying that he's had to face as a light-skinned man. So anytime somebody does anything to try to punk him or try to, test him or test his manhood, it's attributed to him being light-skinned men being soft. They soft. What do you think? Because, being out here in these dating streets, and I know you said you're not a looks person, but have you, for the men, what's your thought around how people approach men who are light skinned versus dark skinned?
Actually, I don't think personally there's any difference. I think if you date Black men, at least right now, if you date Black men, you're not looking at, oh, a lighter skinned Black man is softer than a darker skinned Black man. I will say I do notice that men that are like, I guess, my shade and lighter, they have less of what I call the dark skin complex, where they feel like they have to date a woman of like a lighter shade than them. And I've had exes who were dark skinned and exes who weren't. And I would always ask the dark skinned exes, I was like, would you date a woman as dark or darker than you? And they said no. All of them said no. They said they had to be at least their shade or lighter. So I want the dark-skinned men to really take accountability for this, because this is a thing. And even looking in dating and looks and all of that, because I'm a glamour girl, I do things. I feel like women tend to internalize the colorism. So women will be like, okay, the issue is me, so I need to get the skin bleaching. I need to do this. I need to try to manipulate my image to align to that status. Versus men tend to externalize colorism, and that shows up in their dating and mating choices and how they want their children to look.
Interesting. What are your thoughts around that? Have you ever had Moya, somebody say that you're pretty for a dark skinned person?
I'm sure as a kid maybe, not as an adult. I haven't had it as an adult.
How's that showed up for you in your dating experience? Are you married or you
No, I'm divorced. My so honestly, So as growing up, I did prefer light-skinned men. I did. That was the type of man that I wanted, right? I felt like, okay, if I had a light-skinned man, that was going to solidify my beauty. And then as I got older and I started looking for other areas and other things in a man, then my preferences changed. And it just, I think it just changed.
Okay. I want to take a look at another video that we have that did we look at both? No, there's another video to talk about the conversation. Is there?
Stitch this with your best "Hey, good morning," followed by your most uncomfortable historical fact.
Hey, good morning. The term blue blood comes from the Spanish phrase sangre azul, which the Castilian aristocracy began using in the early 1830s to refer to themselves. They used that phrase to express that they had been uncorrupted by Moorish blood or Jewish blood because their skin was so white that you could see their veins through it.
Hey, good morning. It's well known that in the early segregated 1900s, the brown paper bag test was used to qualify black people for select goods and services. In order to pass the test, a black person would have to be the same color or lighter than a brown paper bag. I would be disqualified. What's lesser known is that this tool of anti-blackness was implemented by black people against one another. Biracial and light-skinned black people formed what was called a blue vein society within the black community, wherein there is privilege, prestige, and power connected to a black person having a complexion light enough to see the blue veins underneath their skin. And this inherently white supremacist system of anti-blackness persists throughout the black diaspora to this very day. We out here.
So let's talk about that because Dr. Alicia, as you have stated, this is a system that came directly from slavery and white supremacy. If you look at the Willie Lynch letters, now some people are saying that they're not true. They may be true or they may not be true. But what was done, what was ingrained, whether he actually wrote this is what was done. What they did is they pit the light skin against the dark skin. They put the house slaves, the lighter ones, they made them the house slaves. The dark ones were in the field. They put the young against the old, the men against the women. They did everything they could to divide us. Why? Because they know in our melanin, in our DNA is power. That divided we stand, united we fall. And so the thing that we've done is we've adopted a lot of those old ways, those racist ways. And so then we've started using them inside our own communities on how to label people. There's a caste system. You had the brown paper bag rule where, if you were lighter than a brown paper bag, you could be a part of a certain social society. People made sure that they married within, a light skin range so that they could continue to be inside that caste system. What are your thoughts around, just the idea of all of that happening in America?
Yeah, I mean, it is so tough because you're a darker skinned Black woman and your own men don't like you. They're preferring lighter skin. And I'm not talking about individually, I'm talking about collectively, right? And, how can you not internalize some of that thinking there's something wrong with you? And for many of darker skinned Black women just say, you know what, I'm going to go and find a white man to date, and what happens then? You're put in a position where now your children are lighter because you're having children with a white person, a white man. And of course, now your children aren't going to be as dark as you, because of that. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place of where do I go to get some love, for who and what I am. And you're raising white children so to speak. So I think that it is a very tough situation to be in. And maybe on some unconscious level, maybe darker skinned women who internalize some of this. I wish Moya was here to talk about it because it's tough. It's uncomfortable for me as a lighter skinned person to speak about this. But if you're a darker skinned person and you internalize some of these things that I'm darker and I'm bad, right? So yeah, you could date and want to date someone lighter because now your offspring wouldn't have to go through what you went through of feeling, less than. So it's your way of kind of getting through some of these issues and working them out with your children, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I know you said, Lala, that your preference used to be dark-skinned men because it made you feel closer to the motherland. But you ended up marrying a light-skinned man. Athena says she has no preference. She like light, she like dark. I want to go to this video of Lord Jamar when he talks about how just even in entertainment, the preference being the lighter skinned women. And why black women complain? Why is it an issue? Let's run that video.
The singer Tank went on Twitter and he said, I have an honest question. What do dark-skinned women have against light-skinned women? Aren't we all black at the end of the day? And then he said, you should check the comments on my page when I post my light-skinned girlfriend, and maybe you'll understand the frustration.
Well, my brother, I think traditionally what a lot of dark-skinned women have against light-skinned women is that traditionally the light-skinned woman has been put on a pedestal above the dark-skinned woman, you know, just as the white woman is put on a pedestal above all black women. So when they see brothers that they may be attracted to, you know, who are probably closer to their complexion than the light-skinned woman that they're with, you know, and if you judged apples and oranges as far as qualities, you know, they might have the same education, you know, same body type, and, you know, they might be equally in good and bad, whatever the case may be, but then these guys keep going with the light-skinned girl. It says something psychologically, and it also creates animosity and, you know, resentment.
So very interesting, right? So Tanko said, we all black, but we don't see your black ass with no dark-skinned women, is basically what they're saying. And, you know, I'm from California, right? And I'm from San Jose, California, where black guys did not like black girls. I don't care what shade you was. They didn't prefer us at all. And if they did, we'd have to be mixed. And but it was like, I went to my ex-husband's you know, when we were 10 year high school reunion, and I think it was only one out of all the black people we went to school with, there was only one other male that actually had a black woman with them. That was just how we grew up. Black men did not prefer us at all, period, point blank. We were not at the top of the menu. And so I love being here in DC, where black men love black women of all shades. They love them chocolate sisters. They love the brown skin. They love light skin. They love all of them. And I absolutely love that, because that wasn't my experience growing up. But so often, you know, the darker skinned women get pushed to the side because of this light skin privilege. And so for you, Lala, do you feel like you've had maybe more options in your dating choice because of your skin tone?
I did. I've actually, before I was with my husband, because don't forget, guys, I was with my husband early, 19 years old. We had known each other since we was 14, but I still had some dating experiences, and men and young boys at the time, high school, of course, you know, would always say, well, you know, the red bone, you pretty little red bone, I want to date you because look at you, my babies would be pretty. And I always found that very offensive. I absolutely hated it. It was immediate turnoff for me, because what am I to you? I am nothing to you but what you want to see in the future in yourself and kids. That's not any kind of relationship. What kind of substance do you have? And what kind of respect do you have for women in general, saying something like that to me? And, you know, even after I was married, I still had men, you know, who approached me, and it always seemed to be that type of situation when it was our community. I have been stepped to by white men as well, but they also loved them some chocolate. Most of them ended up getting married to chocolate women. So it's interesting to be on this side, and it's not flattering to me. I find it really quite repulsive. Don't come to me that way. I'm a breeder of beautiful children for you. Yeah. Okay. Next. So yeah, I've experienced it.
Moya, I know you said you're from Minnesota, mostly everybody, you know, black men don't like black women. How was your experience? Did you feel like you weren't preferred as a black woman?
Definitely growing up
as a chocolate woman.
Yeah, definitely growing up, I definitely felt that way. Like it was something that you naturally feel because it's around you. Because, you know, when you like somebody and you realize, wow, not only does he not like me, but he probably will never like me. in the way that I like him. So that has a deep effect on you. I think one of the things that I would suggest to dark women who feel that way is that you have to go out. Like you said, mention DC. Oh my God, DC is amazing. And even in places like Jamaica, some parts of Africa, like when men just embrace you for being you. And then because you get embraced for being you, you show up way more beautiful. Because unfortunately, the way that society is shaped, how our beauty is perceived makes a difference to us. And so once we start getting that validation back, I feel like we also show up stronger and we also show up with our head held high. So I just think it's important to get around people that like you for who you are.
Yeah. You know, Big Mac said at 154, he said, also light-skinned women also come across to me as arrogant and entitled because of their skin tone.
I gotta say something.
Go ahead.
I can't tell you how many times I've turned someone down gently and lovingly. You know, I'm married. Thank you very much. Oh, but you just think you cute because you look like you think you white. That is the first comment I usually get. And it's not because of what I perceive of myself. It was because they put that perception about me on me. No, I'm not taking that. You can have that back.
Yeah, and there is this real battle, especially with women, dark-skinned women against light-skinned women, because sometimes a dark-skinned woman will say, "Oh, you think you all that because you light-skinned? Oh, you think you all that because you got curly? You think you?" And you're like, "I'm just trying to live my life. I'm not trying to think I'm all that. I'm just trying to be regular. I'm just trying to be me." But Dr. Alicia, somehow you think that like that is true. Like, what are your thoughts when you have a dark skinned person that just does not like or will discriminate against a light skinned woman just because she's light skinned?
Yeah, I mean, again, the problem is not the dark skinned woman doesn't have a problem with the light skinned woman. They have a problem with colorism. And you know, speak up and say, yes, colorism is wrong. Even hair texturism, all of that. You can speak up on that and say, yeah, I think it's terrible. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, do your part in whatever you can to create spaces, as Moya, she's gone now, as Moya talked about, you know, find self-affirming spaces and be part of the solution to that and acknowledge it and say, yes, unfortunately, we live in this world. I hear you, you know, and
well, you need to get it together. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Come up with a way, devise a way to listen and validate darker women who are really talking about their experiences that I haven't had. Yes, I haven't had that experience, but
but it doesn't see and what I don't want to have to be is apologetic for who I am, you know. You know,
not apologetic, but just acknowledging the fact that
we can acknowledge it. But do I gotta apologize because God made me just a little bit lighter, you know, because
40 years old is freeing. I wish somebody would at 40. At 20, I would be like, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? It's not something that I did. But at 40,
wait a minute. I want to make a separation. You can listen to someone's pain and not have to apologizing. Empathy is different from sympathy. Saying I'm sorry about it, that's sympathy. They're not looking for sympathy. They're looking for someone to empathize with their experiences of pain being dark. And that's what we need to do as a solution here. We need to empathize with the pain. Don't take it personal, because
the attack on light-skinned women, though. The attack on light-skinned.
Listen, the attack on light-skinned women is really, start thinking about it as an attack on colorism and start saying colorism is an issue. Yes. They don't need sympathy. They really need someone to hear their unique experiences that I don't have as a lighter skinned person. I can't change my skin color. I can't. I can go out in the sun, but in a few days, I'm gonna go right back to default. You know, I can't help that. But what I can do to be part of the solution, because I love Black people more than anybody else, is to validate it, to acknowledge it. Don't apologize for who and what you are, but really acknowledge it and start calling out. Like, look at what's the movie Coming to America? I mean, look at that kind of movie. Like, he turns down the darker skinned woman in his own country and goes to America and finds this high yellow lady who he brings back as the queen. I mean, as beautiful as that movie is, this is the reason why. That's the reason why we have these perceived notions. Let's start advocating for and supporting darker skinned women as objects of desire and not somebody to be left back, and picked over a lighter skinned person over a darker skinned person.
Agreed. I see it from both perspectives, but I think that we got to be empathetic on both sides, because light-skinned women, and I was one of those people who used to be like, why are light-skinned women complaining? Like, y'all ain't getting no backlash. I used to think that, because again, I was not always this light, and I ain't do nothing to get there, but it's just, just kind of happened it evolved over time. So I was always in the middle. I have been in the middle. And so I didn't ever feel like I experienced colorism in that way. I just felt like, or maybe I was just blackety black, or maybe I just didn't pay attention, because I don't pay attention to many people. I don't pay attention to a whole lot. People always say, you're going to get hit upside the head one day, because you just don't pay attention to a whole lot of nothing. I'll be so in my head, I don't focus on people around me. I have had people say, oh, wow, you're so down to earth, Constance. I thought you would be stuck up. And I just thought because they saw me on the internet or something. I never thought, oh, because she's light skinned, I thought she's going to be stuck up. I don't know. I don't even know where that comes from. But, you just, it's kind of like that racism thing. Somebody said, I think it was you, Moya, on one of our shows. You said, well, I study Black history, and I can't really say this is racism. I can't say everything is racism, because I'm not sure that it's racism. So even in the same way, like for me, I can't say it's because, I've had light skin privilege. You know what I mean? I want to look at this other video and come back and have a discussion around that.
I know that when I'm being called light skinned, as somebody's trying to holler at me or whatever, like, it's a compliment. But it's uncomfortable for me to be called light skinned, because it's like, you're calling me, you're saying I'm different from you. You're saying that I'm not in your, like, you're excluding me from a community.
It's more of like a dismissal.
Yeah. And being black and white, like, I'm not gonna not tell you my mother is white, but I'm not white. I am not half white. I am a Black woman. I don't like that we're separated by skin tones when I could have had 2 Black parents and been the skin tone.
What do you guys think of that? Athena, what is your thoughts? What the first thought when you saw that?
Well, I think that's a point, because my father is a dark Jamaican man, and my mom is my shade, and I just so happen to take on the shade of my mother. So that is a point there, because she could have had 2 Black parents, right, and come out the same color. You can have 2 dark-skinned parents and come out lighter than your dark-skinned parents, right? Our genetics are so vast to me and like wonderful to me. But I think when I look at a group of women, and I have to call us together, I know how to gather the women together with this comment. I think the issue is the men. If men were equally choosing women across the board within the color spectrum, it wouldn't be that much issue. But women's need for need to be desired by men, and we're competing over this desirability. And that is why we internalize so many things when it comes to colorism. If the men were choosing women across the board fairly, it would not be that big of a deal to women. But women feel like, oh, I have to compete with a light-skinned girl, or I have to do all these other things because the men's behavior on who they're picking. So because women want to be picked, and we can have a deeper conversation about this on Friday at our Fly Nubian After Dark show, because we are discussing dating on that episode. Because women at the end of the day want to be picked by these men. It is causing competition, stress, bleach, and all of that, because the men are choosing lighter and brighter.
Moya, do you think all this stuff stems behind our need to be chosen by some raggedy ass Negro that wants a light
Moya?
I feel so unfortunate. Like, I do not want to say this, but I do agree with Athena. Like, I feel like it has to do with our need for validation as women. But the thing is if we can move past that need for validation, which is difficult, we're women. But once, and I think Lala hinted to this, like, once you get of age, you just don't care. Like, you just own you. And I feel like once you own you, then, oh my God, the world opens up. It's like, wait, where did all these opportunities come from? but
Right.
it's you owning you. And so the key that I feel is, how do you own you earlier? What does own you look like at 20? What does own you look like at 25? Like, who wants to wait to 40? You know? So I think that's where I want us to be.
Yeah. What do you think, Lala? Because she resonated with you a little bit. I mean, you guys kind of have the same experience in terms of having one white parent, and then somebody telling you what your experience is supposed to be or it should be as a quote unquote mixed person in America.
What I don't like about the whole thing is it forces you as a child, and you have to understand the dynamics of what this does. When you are battling what people perceive of you outside of your household, it forces you to have to make a choice. Now, we know society makes you make a choice. We know what the law says about one drop rule, but how are you going to tell me that I'm going to not acknowledge that my mother is white and not give her any love as being my mother? It forces the child into this decision that is hurtful and harmful. And right then and there, a child feels guilt. Now, even though I wasn't raised by my white mother, I still was raised by my mama, who raised me, to still appreciate and love that I had a biological mother. What I looked like her. Sometimes I would talk like her, things like this. I was allowed to embrace that. But on a box, when you choose what you are on your license, you are still forced to say you're either Black, white, Native American, blah, blah, blah. You cannot choose what you really are. You have to, in theory, kill part of yourself in order to fit into society. This is a problem from the beginning, and we have to acknowledge that. I never heard the word colorism until I was in my 30s. It wasn't talked about. I didn't know what it was. I'm 54 now. That's a long time for me to know what colorism is.
Yeah. I think the problem also is representation, because we're letting other people tell our stories. I love what you said, Moya, about us Black dark-skinned women not having their Michael Jordan moment. That was a dope analogy. I think that's awesome. But I also think that when we talk about, the people in Hollywood, they're going to be putting women who look closest to their standards of beauty. So when we see, who is beautiful, you have Zoe Saldana, you have, these, you have, what's her name over there on the left? What's her name again?
Zendaya.
Yeah. And then who's in the middle? Who's in the middle?
Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, that's Zoe Kravitz. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have, and Zoe Kravitz is, both of her parents are biracial, but you have, this is the standard of beauty that Hollywood goes by. And it's unfortunate because we don't see the darker skinned one. And then you have something ridiculous as this. I was even mad when this happened. Zoe Saldana created a storm of controversy, as she should have, for portraying Nina Simone, a renowned singer and an activist. Instead of casting a dark-skinned actress, producers chose to cast a lighter one and altered her to look like Nina, giving her a prosthetic nose and skin altering makeup. And what they thought was, because of her popularity, probably, that she was going to be able to do it. But it caused such a backlash that it took away from the idea of being able to really embrace Nina Simone's story. So that she just ruined it. And there was a huge debate. Some people was like, well, Black is Black. But Zoe Saldana doesn't even consider herself Black, so you don't really consider yourself Black, but then you want to portray a Black woman in a movie. But representation matters. How can we, Dr. Alicia, change the narrative of what's put out there?
I mean, changing the narrative is just recognizing that there's light skin privilege, that the enemy is not darker skinned people, the enemy is not lighter skinned people, the enemy is the privilege that comes with the lighter skin. And again, focusing it more on the concepts and ideas on the individual level, being courageous enough to speak up about it and to say something about it. I mean, I get so many messages. Oh, Dr. Alicia, you're so beautiful. And my immediate reaction is, I hope you're talking about on the inside. I hope you're talking about my soul, my spirit, because so much of who we are, especially as women, we're taught that we define ourselves by our relationship. Because I'm in a relationship with this man, here I am defined as this person, somebody's wife or somebody's mom or somebody's whatever, that we really need to take away from. And I love the fact that we focus so much on being picked. I have to look a certain way so that somebody can pick me. And that's what's on the top of, hopefully you'll talk about this in your dating conversation. Just the fact that so much of our attention is around, I have to look a certain way and be a certain way so that men can pick me. And really what it should be is you should be yourself, and hopefully you'll find someone who can love you for you, who sees the beauty inside and not this external shell. We're sentient beings. We're spiritual people living in these bodies, and all of us are just beautiful and have beauty within us. And we just have to reject these notions. We have to consciously go in and make awareness and talk about it with your kids. If you want to start in the home, look at, show movies like, what's the movie? The Bronx Tale. That's a movie where a dark-skinned woman was an object of desire. Point that out. Like, make some of these things as subconscious, raise it up to your conscious level in your household as a solution, to just stop having women just be defined by how we look and who we're dating and being picked by somebody and all of these external things that don't matter. It's what's inside that really makes a difference.
Look at Kamala. Kamala's running and they're dragging her whole dating history, who she dated with, who her husband, why, all this other stuff. Like, women will always be judged for.
But going back to that slide that was just up when they talked about even in the workplace, darker skinned women may be presented as more threatening than a lighter skinned woman. I was having a conversation, like I said last night, with my cohort, and one of the women, she is a heavier set, dark skinned woman. And she is an IT, brilliant woman, NASA, worked for NASA, but she was she had to go and work somewhere in Alabama, and they ended up putting a cord around her neck and trying to choke her for, being too aggressive or speaking her mind. And she said she's just jobs, because she's in IT space, and she's, mostly the people that she worked with are white males. And so she's always been accused of being overly aggressive. She feels it's because she was dark skinned. She's, heavier. She's been accused of, just a lot of, there are a lot of aggression from other people because she's dark skinned. On the other hand, I have a friend who used to work at Cisco Systems. She was light skinned, green eyes. And she said that there's no way that if she was darker, she would have gotten that job. Not that she wasn't smart. She's a brilliant girl, but she knew her privilege in that they needed to kind of, check a box. And she was not threatening because of her appearance. But she didn't mean she couldn't do the job. It's just that she knew that she got something that other darker skinned women couldn't get. And so what are your thoughts, Moya, around the idea of Black, darker skinned women being more threatening or, not as appealing or not getting hired for certain jobs because of their skin tone?
I do feel I feel like it's a two-part question. I'm a firm believer of how we feel is mirrored back to us in the world. So if we feel these ways about us, we're going to see examples of what that looks like in our daily interactions. So while I do believe that me being dark skinned, sometimes I feel like, maybe sometimes I have to be more cognizant of how I show up to make sure that the other person doesn't feel threatened. But largely, I don't do that anymore. Basically, just because I am who I am, and how I come across is everything that I need to in order to get whatever result I'm looking for. And I think that's with any person. So we just have to internalize within us that we have everything.
Yeah.
We're not lacking anything, and we're not looking for anything. And me being who I am is going to show up in a way that you're going to have to accept. But I also have to deal with, am I coming across too snappy? Like, do I need to be mindful of how I might be saying something? So while I believe it's a dance. We're in this world, we're going to have to dance with the world. So we just need to learn the steps to get to where we want to go, to become a great dancer.
I like that. And I do remember back in the Stone Age when I worked for corporate America as a Black woman, I think, period, we have to, how are we showing up? We gotta, be better than everybody, and we can't, we can't be good, because good is average and excellent is good, and we have to do all these extra things just to show that we belong in that room. And I think that also goes to show for Black women in general. They also said, Lala, that lighter skinned women get lower prison sentences than dark skinned women. What are your thoughts around that?
The whole perception of being Black is in the world, like America's sick with racism. The darker you are, the badder you are. When you even talk to children about the dolls study, where they were showing little Black dolls to Black girls and little girls and white little girls, they were all saying things like, well, here's a white doll. What do you think of this doll? Oh, she's pretty. She's nice. She's married. She's, blah, blah, blah. She goes, but then they put up a little Black doll and, oh, she's bad. Well, why is she bad? Because she's dark. So you see, the perception is more deeply rooted. So what you present in your skin is a backlash from what others see. So if you're darker, then of course they subconsciously already see that it's bad. And the lighter you are, well, she can be rehabilitated. So this is all a part of the subconscious. This is all deeply rooted in racism from way back, from slavery days, and within our own communities if we don't stop it.
That's true. What do you think about the idea of darker skinned people getting longer prison sentences, Athena?
I think that's a reality. We have to come to the conclusion that as much as we like to promote, and it's good, right? In an ideal society, we should embrace these things. We're human beings, right? Sometimes human animals, depending on how you can control your base nature. And people are coming with their biases. It's just like when women get less penalties for the same crimes that men commit. We do have stereotypes and programming and biases that affect us, right? Even children. So more Black boys are suspended from schools and things like that. I think, Constance, you've shared openly the challenges you've had to face as a mother to Black men. So it is that way. And also within workspaces, and we discussed this in the workplace conversation, there are Black people in the same job, same level as you, trying to be the token Black person on the job. So you're just facing it at all angles. This is coming left, right, and center. And I think that Dr. Alicia, you might be able to talk about this. The mental gymnastics as a Black person in America, wherever you fall upon that spectrum, that you have to do causes so much psychological stress. I remember going to Jamaica recently on vacation. I got my little tan on, but I remember being down there exhaling, because I was like, okay, I don't have to think about race. I can just be. I was like, this is probably how white people feel living here. Like, I could just be and be relaxed. Like, I don't have to think about race versus every day here. The fact of my race, the fact of my skin tone, if I have a weave or not, how I'm showing up today or not, if I'm looking sexy today or not, how this affects outcomes in my life.
Yeah. It reminds me of James Baldwin. He said being Black in America means to be in a rage at all times. It's something, not only are we Black, now we light skinned, we dark skinned, we're women. There are things that are going through our minds 24/7 of how we have to show up, what we have to do, when we have to code switch, who we gotta be. Are we too aggressive? And how are people looking at me? Are they looking at me as a Black woman first? Are they looking at me as all of those things that we have to contend with as Black people first, and then as Black women, and then you get down to light skin, dark skin, all of those other things. And I think that the biggest thing, and I want to toss it to you guys for just final words. What is one thing, because we always want to come back to a solution. And I know we've talked about it, but I really want you just to kind of just put your stamp on that one thing that we can do, that one thing that I can do today to change the narrative of how we show up when we're talking about colorism. So I'm going to start with you, Athena.
Listen, well, I got to go first. Okay, so the one thing that I think we can do is be honest with ourselves. be honest with ourselves. Some of us are benefiting a little bit from this bias, from this prejudices that we have on the colorism spectrum, and some of us play into it a lot more. But I want us to also realize that even though these forces are in play, you don't have to play into the mental gymnastics. You are allowed to live. You are allowed to be. Just like Lala said, she didn't choose her race, her skin, her ethnicity. We didn't choose this. We were born into this system. So we just have to do the best that we can and play the cards that we are dealt. Now, if you benefit in any way, I still think you should, maximize your benefits. That's just how I think as a person. You should always maximize the opportunities you're given, but also know that you are a cog in the wheel as well. My name is Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and founder of We Wealth Women, where I help women confidently manage their finances and live their best goddess life. You can find me at wewealthwomen.com and at We Wealth Women on all social media. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. Also, this Friday, which is tomorrow, we'll be doing a dating episode of Fly Nubian Queen After Dark. We'll be showing up in our robes with our drinks, and we'll talk about is modern dating dead? So we're talking about it all. Red pill, gender war, level up, honey, all the tea we have. We're rating dating profiles as well. So if you want to see us queens on that show, make sure to check it out specifically on the Fly Nubian Queen channel.
Listen, Athena said, if you light skinned, you better go ahead and take advantage of your privilege.
Listen, if you fine, if you cute, if whatever advantages.
That's the one thing that I think we didn't discuss is maybe even pretty privilege, right? Because when you have more of attractive, quote unquote, attractive women, there's a certain level of privilege that you get as attractive women. Maybe more doors are open. Is it just about the skin tone? Is there such thing as pretty privilege?
It's a double-edged sword, but we can talk about that on another show.
Yeah. All right, Miss Moya, what are your final thoughts? And what is one thing that we can do today to change the narrative?
The one thing that I would suggest is us owning us, meaning that, as everyone said on the panel today, we're not able to do anything about how we came into this world, but we can definitely dress up and use our package of how we're presented in the best way possible. And the biggest part is getting rid of any of, as Athena called it, that mental gymnastics. The ballerina Misty Copeland said that if I didn't have to worry about my Blackness, how much further would I be? And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. If we can understand that while we are who we are, let's remove that and let's show up our best. And that way we'll be able to be received as our best. So my name is Moya, and you can find me on Instagram at moya.business.
I love it. Very good. Miss Lala, tell us about it and tell us what is one thing we can do today to change the narrative on colorism.
Stop it within yourself. You really need to take a very hard look at yourself, the words that come out of your mouth, the thoughts that you think. You need to really pay attention to yourself in order to make any kind of changes without yourself and within your household. So we must understand the roots by understanding us. And you can find me at bit.ly/LauraKeyInfo. I have a lot of great things about buying real estate in the United States as well as Portugal, and a lot of free resources there as well.
Very good. Thank you. And Dr. Alicia, tell us, doctor, what is one thing we can do today to change the narrative?
Oh my gosh. I really do think,
give us one thing.
I can't believe it. I think that if you feel like you're on the receiving end of privilege, I really think you need to be courageous enough to stand up against it. Start being the courageous voice that tries to promote equity. Because as a social worker and a therapist, it has a toll on people's mental health. And so you want to be part of this, because I think there's trauma that goes along with, thank you for bringing that comment up. There's trauma that goes along with the experiences that people have because they're dark skinned. Dark skin trauma privilege, you know, that's there, anti-Blackism, anti-Africanism. It is really there. And we really need to do our part in standing up and speaking about it and being courageous enough, maybe not in the moment, but if you're in situations that are tense, process it, come back and address it. Start helping other people raise their awareness, just as Lala say, raising your awareness. I am Dr. Alicia. I am a therapist. I am a social worker, and I'm an advocate for all of those individuals who are marginalized. You can contact me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia, individual, couple, and family work. You can follow me on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia.
Thank you. I just say post-traumatic slave syndrome is real. It's real, y'all. We are suffering from the effects of slavery in a real way. And at the end of the day, I think we need to think race first. We need to think Black first. We are all Black. We are all equal. Now, all of us have different experiences in this country based upon gender, color, shade, and all of those things. But I think if we start thinking about it, like I love what Dr. Alicia said about being empathetic. But if we start thinking about ourselves, our race first, being, you know, self-sufficient and thinking collectively as a race rather than breaking us down and thinking about the things that divide us, I think that would change the narrative of how we can move our culture forward. We have so many things to worry about. They have thrown so many things at us. We have so many things that we have to fight outside. We should not be fighting inside as well. So where can you find me? Everywhere. I am Constance Carter. Listen, I am having an event in the DMV area in November. It is called the Weekend of Wealth Experience. I'm going to help you to find your next. What is your next? Are you at a place where you are at a pivot, where you're shifting in your career? In my Net 7 Collective, these women are having pure breakthroughs, and I'm coaching them to make millions. And so I want to just spend a weekend with you in person to help you discover what's next for you, what's next in your life. Go to weekendofwealth.eventbrite.com so that you can come and hang out with me for a whole weekend, and we can change your life. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Constance Carr. This is Fly Nubian Money, where we help you maximize your money. Go to flynubianmoney.com to get all the information on how to grow your money and not blow your money. And remember, if you want to get alerted before we come live, go text the word Queens to 87948. That's QUEENS at 87948. And we is on podcast, y'all. So go everywhere where you can hear podcasts and search for Fly Nubian Money so that you can listen to us. You might not be able to see our beautiful, beautiful faces, but you can actually listen to us talk to y'all. And we would love to have you just feedback and join the conversation. Because remember, every time we come live, this is a dialogue and not a monologue. And we appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all. And make sure you share this out to everyone, because everyone needs to hear and needs to change their mindset around colorism. We're going to be here tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We will see you then.